Hello everyone, back to today's second video, doing GWV Sunday Round-Up for today's second video. So this is going to be your Sunday afternoon eclectic mix of this amount. We're going to be looking at things like sea surface temperature anomalies, Eurasian snow cover, Arctic sea ice extent, the Arctic oscillation, North Atlantic oscillation, and the SY as well as weather next week, 10 days. Also, so sit back, relax, and enjoy as we go through GWV Sunday Round-Up. Solar Sunday has been released, so it's a very exciting day at GWV. So we only do a couple, 2 or 3 Solar Sundays a year. We've got a Solar Sunday for you, the first one since August today. So have a look at that video. It's on the homepage at GWV.com and on the YouTube channel as well, of course. And we place that on the Solar Cycle 24-25 updates page this evening with a written summary for anyone who can't watch the video. Ensembles Watch will be coming up this evening as well, when we go through all members of the GFS ensembles to see what they're showing for the next couple of weeks. So we've got an Instagram page. Well, I'll start off with this just to tell everyone that didn't see the video a couple of days ago when I said about this. So yes, GWV is now on Instagram. Not sure I'm going to do with the Instagram page. I'm aiming to post a chart a day, something like that. But if you would like to follow the GWV's Instagram page, the link is in the description with the video at YouTube. So if you're on Instagram, you'd like to follow GWV's Instagram page, then that's it. That is the Instagram page for GWV's weather events. Now, Solar Sunday has been released, so we won't be going through the solar trackers this week. Just to say that solar activity is at very low levels, and this episode has gone outside this today from soham.net. So we have got one little area of sunspots, or a sunspot area just there. That's from Solar Cycle 24, I think, and overall solar activity though is at very low levels, expected to remain at very low levels for the next 3 days. As I say, we won't go through the solar tracker date. If you want to know what's happening with the solar tracker and all of the solar trackers, not only the regular one, but all of the solar trackers for Solar Cycle 24 overall, and comparison to other solar cycles, then have a look at solar. Certainly, it's all explained in there in the first half an hour of Solar Sunday. Right, so next thing we're going to look at is sea surface temperature anomalies in the Atlantic and Pacific Ocean. So this is how the sea surface temperature anomalies were looking last week when we did last week's GWV Sunday Round-Up. We've got our 3 areas of interest. We've got the ENSO region just here. We've got the Northern Pacific up there, and we've got the North Atlantic over here. That's how the sea surface temperature anomalies were looking last week. We did last week's Sunday Round-Up. This is the latest. I hope these charts are going to be professional all the way through the video. This is the latest. So in terms of ENSO, very little change in the equatorial Pacific Ocean from last week. Again, that's how things were looking last week. This is how things are looking this week. Very little change. We remain at ENSO neutral, warmer in this western part of the equatorial Pacific Ocean, a little bit cooler over towards the Peruvian side of the equatorial Pacific Ocean, but very little change overall through the equatorial waters of the Pacific. So ENSO neutral on the warm side of ENSO neutral, where we currently are. Up in the northern Pacific Ocean, particularly this northeastern corner, again, that's how things are looking now compared to last week. So probably very little change overall in the past week. We may have seen a slight further cooling around here up towards Alaska. So very gradually things are cooling down in this northeastern part of the Pacific Ocean. Been quite warm up there, not only through this past winter, but for quite a few years actually. So looks like things are cooling down a little bit up there, but not all that much change on the past week. And then over in the North Atlantic, we still have this area of cooler than average sea surface temperature anomalies in the northern part of the Pacific, of the Atlantic Ocean, and also off the African coast just there as well, although further south off the African coast is very warm through this equatorial part of the Atlantic Ocean. But the Atlantic said to be still conducive for a positive NAO, a positive and mild type winter pattern. That's the kind of sea surface temperature anomaly profile we have at the moment. Cool there, rather cool just there, and then warmer through here, and that really does promote a positive NAO, particularly when it's combined with what happened earlier in winter in the northeastern Pacific, where it's relatively warm there, and being at ENSO neutral. We also had a positive IOD, Indian Ocean dipole. I haven't talked about this before in videos. It's something I'm researching at the moment. There's been quite a bit of discussion about the sea surface temperature anomalies in the Indian Ocean this winter as one of the factors in this mild winter that we've had in North America and also in Europe as well. It's not an area of the oceans that I'm particularly familiar with, but I am going to do some research about it. It's possible we'll start looking at the Indian Ocean sea surface temperature anomalies as well in the next round of winter updates for the coming winter, which will be 2021, and those winter updates will begin from September, of course, as usual. So that may be a factor that we'll start looking at in subsequent updates, particularly in those winter updates, what's going on in the Indian Oceans. Overall, though, for Pacific and Atlantic, hasn't been all that much change over the past week. Yeah, so it looks like these are going to keep refreshing all the way through, doesn't it? So I'll probably pause the video in a minute, go through the tabs and refresh them so that we don't keep having all of this refreshing going on through the video. But the Southern Oscillation Index is next. So this is from Queensland Government, which is part of Bureau of Meteorology. So the SOI is just an index that's reflecting the atmospheric state down in the southern Pacific Ocean. When the SOI is in its positive phase, you're going to be reflective of a La Nina type state. When the SY is in its negative phase, you're going to be reflective of an El Nino type state. If we scroll down to the daily numbers, you can see that through the second half of January, we had quite a bit of positivity of the SOI actually. So we've got the 20th of January, for example, at +2, 24th of January at +10, 25th of January at +4, 28th of January at +8, 29th of January +11, 30th of January at +7. These are all reflective of a La Nina type setup down in the Southern Ocean, and that possibly is one of the factors in particularly the eastern part of the equatorial Pacific Ocean cooling down a little bit through the second half of this winter. However, the last couple of days have gone more negative. So remember, when the SY is in its negative phase, the atmospheric setup will be reflective of an El Nino, and for the 1st and 2nd of February, we've gone down to -15 and -13 respectively. So this is a more El Nino type atmospheric state in the Southern Ocean. While we're trending and trading positive and negative numbers, we will essentially stay at ENSO neutral, really. Neither El Nino or La Nina will be able to get an ascendancy. We have seen enough positivity of the SOI to lift the 30-day average up, though. So at the beginning of January, this red line was down here, around -8 for the 30-day average, whereas the start of February, we see the SOI up here, actually in very, very weakly positive type territory. Nowhere near what you would consider an overall La Nina type state, but definitely we have seen a rise in the 30-day SOI average. But whether that will tail off, it looks like it, to the last couple of days, it looks like it has perhaps tailed off a little bit. Whether that's just a temporary pause, it will carry on rising, we'll find out in the next few weeks. So I'm going to pause the video there, go through the tabs and refresh them so that that's done and we don't have that refreshing going on through video. So I'll pause the video just there and we'll meet back in around 2 seconds time. Right, we're back and we're ready to carry on with GWV Sunday Round-Up. Everything's refreshed and we shouldn't have any more refreshing as we run through the remainder of But apps, right, so the next thing we're going to look at is Eurasian snow cover. So this is from the National Ice Centre, which is part of NOAA, of course. And we can see that, yes, most parts of Russia are covered with snow, as you would expect, in the depths of the middle of winter, of course. Got a little bit of snow now into the far east of Europe as well. There's a little bit of snow cover there in some extreme eastern parts of Europe. But really, still, Europe is doing very, very poorly for snow cover. We've got poor old Sweden here, south of Sweden anyway, snow free at the moment. Northern parts of Sweden doing a little bit better. Northern parts of Finland doing okay, but southern Finland is still struggling. Norway not doing too badly, but of course Norway is very mountainous. Actually, southern parts of Norway a little bit snow-free. And then the rest of Europe, really, it's just a case of snow over sort of elevation. So we have got, of course, snow cover over the tops of the Alps and some over Pyrenees just here. But essentially, we're still well down on snow cover for Europe for this winter. It has been a very, very bad winter for snow cover through most parts of Europe, and that goes on as well. The yellow area up here, that's where we've got Arctic sea ice extent, or where we've got Arctic sea ice, essentially where the Arctic Sea is sort of freezing up and creating ice. And one of the things that comes out of this very mild zonal winter is that, of course, within the Arctic, especially around Greenland and some parts of eastern Canada, it's very, very cold up there. So we are actually seeing a little bit of a recovery for Arctic sea ice extent at the moment. So this is from the National Sea Ice. This is from the Arctic, I should say, Sea Ice News and Daily Analysis. It's part of National Snow and Ice Data Centre, which is all part of NOAA ultimately, I think. So this blue line just here, that's where Arctic sea ice extent currently is. So we are below average, of course. We're not going to see a rise to long-term averages because we have so many years where we have been below average. But if I put in the 10-year averages, so let's put in the average for 2011 to 2019. If we can get that, so there it is, and we see it's another blue line, it's this one just here, and we can see we're actually above that. So in terms of the 2011 to 2019 average, we are above that now for 2020. If I put in the 2001 to 2010 average, if we're going to be able to do that, let's see if we can. So that's this black line. We're very close to that, actually. That's the 2001 to 2010 average just there. We're a bit under it, but you will think possibly it could get to the 2001 to 2010 average within sort of the next couple of weeks, perhaps, if this zone of weather was to continue. Putting in the 1991 to 2000 average, we can see that we are, of course, well below that one. That's this green line up here. So we're nowhere near the 1991 to 2000 average, well below that. And then the 1979 to 1990 average, we can add that one, and that's even higher than 1991 to 2000. That's this orange coloured line up here. So we're below, well below the long-term averages. The more modern averages, though, we're not doing too badly against 2011 to 2019, and we may actually catch up with 2001 to 2010 average as well. It's possible that we will, because it looks like this zone of weather is going to go on a little bit longer. So a slight, sort of very slight recovery in Arctic sea ice extent currently taking place as a result of this very zonal and for the mid-latitudes very mild winter. This is how the Arctic oscillation observed and forecast chart is looking, so the black line shows where we've been, with the Arctic oscillation, red lines at the end, where the GFS ensembles are forecasting the Arctic oscillation to go. It's just an index that's reflecting the atmospheric state. It's not driving anything in its own terms. It just tells us what the atmosphere is doing. When the AO is negative, you're going to have high pressure over the pole, you have blocking, that pushes cold air out of the pole and down to mid-latitudes. When the AO is positive, though, you're going to have low pressure over the pole, and low pressure is like the polar vortex, and that will drive the westerlies and also keep a lot of the cold air locked in over the Arctic and over the North Pole itself. We've had a very positive AO throughout this winter, especially in the first half of January. At that point, we didn't think the AO could go any more positive, but look what the GFS ensembles are forecasting. That's where we are right now, positive with the AO. But for the second week of February, we are seeing possibly the most positive episode of the Arctic oscillation that we have ever had. It's basically going off the scale positive. Absolutely extraordinary to see the GFS ensembles going to that extreme level of positivity. So we really are going to see the polar vortex powering up, and this will continue to drive in westerly winds, of course. The exact origins of the air is important in determining how mild it's going to be, but definitely the signal here is for a very, 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 very positive Arctic oscillation. Almost, you see the GFS ensembles going off the scale. By mid-February, they're possibly dropping back a little bit, but it certainly looks like the Arctic oscillation is going into an extremely positive phase. The NAO has been positive through this winter as well. Again, same idea of this. The black line shows where I've been with the NAO, red lines at the end where GFS ensembles are forecasting the NAO to go. So we're around neutral with the North Atlantic oscillation right now, actually in one of the lower periods of this winter for the NAO, but it's going to go very positive again as we move through February. Not going off the scale like the Arctic oscillation is, but nevertheless positivity of the NAO continues. So both the indexes are in their positive phases, telling us that westerlies are going to continue. It looks like the ECMWF is also going for a record-breaking Arctic oscillation as well. I saw this on Twitter. This is from Steve M. Steve Merg. Give Steve a follow. I'll leave the Twitter link to I'll leave a link to Steve's Twitter in the description at YouTube. So Steve tweeting, overnight ECM shatters the NEO AO 70-year record. AO plus 7.5, NEO plus 6. And these are the charts just here from the ECM. You can see how the ECM is being forecast to go off the scale positive, going up here into the second week of February. That's plus 7 on the scale just there. So the ECM and the GFS really absolutely going to town on this positive Arctic oscillation that's going to develop through the course of February. Westerlies will continue. So this is the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensemble chart for Leeds for the next couple of weeks. The red line is the 30-year upper air temperature average. Very much up and down, indicative of zonal conditions at the moment. We're in a warmer sector. We're going to have a little cold snap through the early part of this week. Then we're going to go much milder again in the second half of the week. Then we drop down as we go through into the second week of February, a bit of a colder interlude through there. And essentially just very up and down, very much indicative of the zonal sine wave. Precipitation-wise for Leeds, reasonable amount of dry weather through to the end of the coming week, and then as we go into the second week of February, looks like we have a little bit of a deluge on our hands with plenty of rainfall coming up. Maybe a bit of a drying trend though as we go into the second half of the month. Temperature anomalies from the 2nd to the 10th of February, a little bit milder than average, not all that big a deviation, but certainly we continue to be on the mild average side, as is most parts of Europe. Precipitation anomalies from the 2nd to 10th of February, a little bit wetter than average, a little bit above average for precipitation, and these will probably trend wetter in the days ahead. This is how the midnight GFS run was looking. High pressure ridging in from off the Atlantic for Wednesday, bringing us a drier colder day, but as we go through into Thursday, Friday, Saturday, that high pressure quickly gets eroded as low pressure winds itself up in the North Atlantic, and in comes wet and windy weather through the course of next weekend. May go a little bit stormy, not overly mild though. Winds are from the northwest with this, so we call this cold zonality as we bring the air out of Greenland into the UK. So rather on the chillier side for the early part of the second week of February, but very unsettled. This is the jet stream forecast for Monday, the 10th of February. A phenomenally strong jet stream coming across the Atlantic, out of there, across the Atlantic, and into the UK and Western Europe. Looks like a really, really strong jet will be with us for this second week of February, where the AO goes so very, very positive. Then we go through up towards day 10, and we remain in this westerly phase. Low pressure continues to drive itself in off the Atlantic, trying to raise the heights a little bit to our northeast, but I think the Atlantic is too active to allow anything to come of that. Essentially, the low pressure just keeps driving in all the way up to Tuesday the 18th of February, as far as we can go with the midnight GFS run. The 6 o'clock run is currently updating. 6 o'clock GFS run. Again, we start from the middle part of the week, relatively dry, quite chilly, and then into the weekend, into next weekend, turning increasingly unsettled, wet and windy weather, driving in from off the Atlantic, moving up towards day 10. Again, these areas of low pressure just continue to push in. That's how things look with 6 o'clock GFS run at day 10, which is Wednesday the 12th of February. Again, you'll notice heights are rising a little bit to the extreme north, but with the Atlantic so active, I'm not sure anything is going to be able to calm that. Let's try and get a bit further on with the 6 o'clock GFS run. So eventually it is having a go at building up a little bit of a Scandinavian high there by the middle of February, with low pressure out to west. It seems very strange that the GFS is doing that when the AO is going into such a positive phase through the second week of February. So quite what the GFS is picking up on with this, I'm not sure, and we'll have to keep a close eye on that in the days ahead. This is how the GM is looking. So again, we've got high pressure reaching across the country on Wednesday, bringing us a drier, colder day. Then that gets broken down over the weekend as low pressure drives in from off the Atlantic up to day 10, looking very unsettled, maybe even you'll say quite stormy. ECM, again, high pressure reaching in the Wednesday, then gradually gets broken down. It takes a little bit longer to break the high pressure down with the ECM, but eventually, as we get through to the end of next weekend, this is Sunday, 9th February, we're bringing back west-south westerlies, and then moving up towards day 10, really quite unsettled, a little bit on the stormy side as well, particularly there at day 10, which is Wednesday the 12th of February. That looks very stormy for northwestern parts of Scotland, and that's why the ECM is going off the scale with its positive AO forecast. It doesn't get much more zonal, much more positive for the Arctic and North Atlantic oscillation than that. Of course, remember, it's always the weather that's driving the index. So because there's all of that low pressure within the northern latitudes, we've got this strong reach from the Azores into western and southwest parts of Europe. That's why the AO and NAO are so very, very positive there by Wednesday, the 12th of February. These are the options on the table within the ECM ensembles today for day 10 from the Icelandic Met Office. So this is the 12th of February, 26 members of the ECM ensembles with lots of low pressure driving in off the Atlantic with those southwesterly winds. A little bit of high pressure to our south, then another 25, even more unsettled with low pressure. Again, just driving in, churning away from off the Atlantic. In 2 weeks' time, these options that we've got, this is the 17th of February, 20 members of the ECM ensembles, low pressure over the country, really, and slightly to the north. 11, again, with low pressure driving in. 9, with low pressure just to our north. A bit more in way of high pressure to the south with those 9. 8, with some high pressure sitting to our south and southeast. Low pressure is out to the northwest. And then these 3, just it's a very minority option. These 3 are the driest option with a ridge more or less through the country. That ridge does look quite flimsy, and this low pressure probably is set to break it down. So even into the second half of February, it looks like we stay quite Atlantic driven. CFS V2 looks like this. The next 4 weeks, these are 500 millibar heights broken down into weekly periods. The first week period takes from the 2nd to the 8th of February. The coming week has quite a bit of high pressure, but we know it's going to get broken down by around next weekend. Low pressure is up to the north, but we will have a few days of drier and more settled conditions. Week 2 is the 9th to the 15th of February. Low pressure comes in from off the Atlantic then, so it turns more unsettled in this second week of February. It's looking very mild though. Week 3 looks very unsettled. This 16th to 22nd of February. Lots of low pressure coming in off the Atlantic Ocean. Looking really unsettled in week 3. And then week 4, this is quite interesting. This is the 23rd to 29th of February. Then we get a Scandinavian high appearing. Low pressure gets pushed out into the middle of the Atlantic, and winds with that would be turning east. Now, because it's been such a very mild winter for Northern Europe, I'm not sure how much cold air there will be to bring in on an easterly wind at the end of February, but that's a big change. It's 4 weeks away, remember, so it's very unlikely to verify. But today, just today, the CFS is seeing a Scandinavian high, which possibly brings us our coldest phase of the winter in the final week of the winter. You couldn't make it up, could you? This how the CFS V2 is forecasting February in terms of its February, March, April, I should say, in terms of its 500 millibar height anomaly. Wants to keep zonal weather going really through February, March, April. Lots of high pressure to the north, lots of high pressure to the south, I should say, low pressure to the north, and in come the westerly winds. So this zonal weather that we've been in for so very long, the CFS wants to carry that through into the end of the winter and the early spring, despite that hint of a Scandinavian high in week 4. But look what it's doing for summer. This is June, July, August, 700 millibar height anomaly. We've been waiting for months and months and months for northern blocking this winter. Haven't had a sniff of it all winter. We get to summer, and what does it do? It forecasts extensive northern blocking within the northern latitudes. All of this yellow up here over Greenland, that's high pressure sitting within the northern latitudes. It's also going for a trough of low pressure sitting not quite over top of the UK, but there is a trough of low pressure very close to the UK. I mean, that's a very grim looking signal for summer, because the jet stream would be down here, we'd be going on to the cold side of the jet, and of course this trough of low pressure would be producing outbreaks of rain, and it would be a pretty dim sort of pattern that for the summer of 2020, and it's all driven by the northern blocking when it's setting up within the northern latitudes. Obviously it's very unlikely to verify, but it's just typical, isn't it? But we've waited all winter to try and find some high pressure within the northern latitudes, get some high pressure towards Greenland and Svalbard and those sort of areas, and haven't had a sniff of it all winter, and then we get to summer, and there it is, the CFS is going to town with northern blocking today. We shall keep an eye on that and see how that develops, of course. Finally, just say that if you're enjoying the videos at the moment, please can you consider becoming a patron for the GWV. We have 61 patrons so far, so hello and a big thank you to our 61 patrons. We hope you're enjoying the content at the moment that we're producing at GWV. If you'd like to become a patron, the GWV is given an ongoing monthly donation to help us pay for the website and keep the content online. All you need to do is come to GWV's patron page. You just need to sign up for a Patreon account, assuming you don't already have one. I mean, pledge an ongoing monthly donation to GWV. It can be anything from $1 a month upwards, and that's how you become a patron for GWV. Alternatively, you can become a donor, so you can become a PayPal donor and give a donation however much you want to GWV. And this is really simple. You just come to GWV's paypal.me page, you sign into your PayPal account, and then you can give a donation to GWV. So whether you do it through PayPal or Patreon, you're going to get a mention in the videos. We'll give you a shout out and say thank you very much for doing that as long as you want one. Big thank you to all of our patrons. Big thank you to all of our donors. Right, so that's it for GWV Sunday Round-Up. Don't forget to check out Solar Sunday. We'll be back back this evening with Ensembles Watch. We go through all members of the GFS Ensembles. It did look as though the GFS was starting to get a little bit interesting towards the middle of February there on those midnight and 6 o'clock GFS runs, didn't it? So maybe we'll see something a little bit more interesting on Ensembles Watch tonight. You'll find out after 7 o'clock this evening. But that's it for the Sunday Roundup. We'll do it all over again next week, but that's all for now, and thanks for watching.